Today I am 10 years sober from alcohol. A couple months sober from other things. I don't really, I don't know, I didn't like plan this video. I just felt like it was worth noting. And maybe I'll look back on it in 10 years and either be proud or disappointed. Um, I don't know, I'm in a weird mood, I guess. I woke up about 10 minutes ago, 20 minutes ago, I don't know. I should say I got out of bed about 20 minutes ago. I woke up probably a couple hours ago. I didn't sleep very well. I had a really difficult day yesterday doing homework, and my health anxiety kind of hijacked my brain, made it difficult to process any of the information I was reading in the textbook. And today's also my 34th birthday, so I wanted to get my homework done yesterday, so I didn't have to do any on my birthday, and I'd be free to, be depressed in peace. Peace. You know what I mean? I feel like I've simultaneously learned a lot and nothing in my 10 years of alcohol abstinence. I think it's very in vogue to like be sober right now. I think a lot of people are glorifying it. This is really making me look like I have a unibrow, but I do not. It's my big ass forehead. Anyway. What was I saying? I'm getting caught up looking in the camera. Learned a lot and nothing. I have very recently come to understand that I never liked alcohol in the first place, I don't think. Like I had, it wasn't like gross. I had a taste for it more or less, but I didn't drink because I liked, I didn't care about. I would just get the crappiest uh, alcohol there was at the store and chug it just to stuff it down with brown, you know. I think there's still a lot of, or maybe all of the unresolved. I don't want to. It feels unfair to use the word trauma about yourself, but I don't know. I like part of the inside of me. This is chaos. The inside of me is saying, everybody had a hard childhood. So like, who am I to react so poorly to it? Um, but I didn't realize how damaging a hyper religious upbringing can be until like 7 or 8 years after I stopped drinking. Which is to say, it wasn't until I was like in my 30s that I realized how deeply rooted my my problems are. Um, Obviously, drinking didn't fix that. I think everybody knows that. But I think it doesn't seem to me like anybody discusses the fact that quitting drinking doesn't solve it either. And internally, uh, it makes life worse. I think. Um, I was horribly depressed and angry and stupid and lazy and ugly and mean and just like a bad person when I was abusing alcohol, which of course caused me to abuse alcohol even harder to like cover up. So like here's the things I was covering up, and then here's the things that drinking created in the cover up. So I would drink more to cover that up. You know what I mean? Um, and the longer you're not drinking, the more bits you uncover, and you're like having all these epiphanies of like, oh, well, it's because blah, blah, blah. But then there's always a layer beneath that. And now that I'm 10 years into it, I hope to God that I've reached the bottom layer, because I don't know how much more I can take. um, but you have to put in the work yourself. Like you have to, because quitting drinking is not the answer. It's not the solution. It is just the first step. It's the first step in a long process, and it's the only step that anybody talks about. Like, I know AA has their whole like 10 steps whatever, but like even then, like those 10 steps are really just the first step. Um so yeah, I think I guess for anybody considering getting sober and has also lasted 8 minutes into this ramblings of a madman. um, it sounds cliche. It doesn't get easier. Sometimes it gets harder. Sometimes you're too weak to handle it. Sometimes you're stronger than you've ever been. And it's important to surround yourself with people who are capable of supporting you. I don't think someone has to be an alcoholic and understand the plight of alcoholism in order to help someone who is struggling with it. Obviously, it helps. Um, Sometimes it's good to have someone who doesn't fully understand it, because you can kind of get circle jerky with it, you know. Um, the urge, like the overwhelming constant urge to drink, didn't go away for me until at least a year, at least the first year, which I know is incredibly discouraging. Um, I feel like I could share my experience of that first year, but I think it's so personal for everybody that I don't think it, it would help that much. Um, I know that's not what you want to hear. That is not what I would have wanted to hear back then, but nobody can do it for you. And you can't do it for anybody except yourself. Nobody can force you to be sober, and you can't get sober for someone else. Because I don't want to speak in absolutes, but in my experience, getting sober for someone else, you just can't do it. I don't think anybody can do it. I've never met someone who got sober for someone else other than like their future self or, some bullshit like that. Yeah, I think it's also really easy to dismiss that behavior and subsequent behavior as I'm an addict, um, which is like, for a lot of people that's true. And I do think in my case it is true, but it doesn't, you can't be dismissive about it. It's not like, oh, my dog's about to bark. Don't do it, Poe. Oh, God. Poe, come here, come here, come here, come here. Okay. They're gonna do that. I'm gonna pause for a second. I can't remember what I was saying. Let me remember what I was saying. Yeah, being an addict. You can't be dismissive. You can accept that you're an addict, or you can reject that you're an addict, and that's not the same as like it being true or false. It's just your acceptance of it or not, and then whether it's true or false is a separate thing. So it's kind of all about how you frame it. I'm not articulate enough to go into that on any sort of tangible level, but for the longest time I was like, oh, I'm just an addict, and then it got to a point where it was like, well, I got rid of the alcohol, and retrospectively I've replaced the alcohol with other things, and then quit those things and replace those things with other things, and then that kind of puts you into this cycle of, everybody has their vice. And I don't know, I guess that's true. I'm not saying I have answers. You just have to be careful, because underneath whatever your vice is or whatever you're currently addicted to at the time, as far as I can tell, and in my personal experience, there are outlets and there are stress relievers, and then there are coping mechanisms to cover what you don't want to deal with. And I think a majority of humanity just kind of accepts that and dies not having like swam in the abyss, so to speak. And I think, not to get too Jungian, but I think a man can only truly discover himself through spiritual torture. That's kind of the only way to put it. You don't know who you really are until you've gone to the other side and come back, and whatever you come back with might not be exactly who you are, but it certainly greater reflects your inner self. I hope any of this is making sense. Anyway, yeah, life is still hard, and sometimes it's harder than it ever has been, even while I was drinking. And then again, it's difficult to really like objectively assess that time period because I was essentially unconscious for 5 years. um, so it's hard to say what reality was. I think I've in the past 10 years I've really grappled with the concept of meaning, whether meaning is inherent or subjective or derived or created. And I wouldn't say I've come to a conclusion, but my kind of daily driver philosophy is that I'm never going to know. I'm never going to know the answers. Maybe because there aren't any. And the very fact that there aren't any could mean that I get to decide what they are. And navigating a space like that without the assistance of a medication is certainly a form of torture in itself. Yeah. Suicidal thoughts never go away. There are periods in which they're less frequent, but they never go away, and I don't think they ever will. And I'm okay with that. Cause, well, I'm not sure why I'm okay with that. I'm not sure. Maybe you can tell me. I think that's it. Thank you.